Which lawmaker recall campaigns are going to a vote? Taiwan finds out tonight. The foreign ministry is getting Taiwanese citizens out of Israel and Iran as the conflict there escalates. Grab your passport. The Philippines is letting Taiwanese nationals enter visa-free for up to 2 weeks. Plus, a riotous performance. We check out CloudGate's newest dance shows. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Liao. In breaking news coming out of Taiwan's Central Election Commission, at least 24 opposition KMT lawmakers are facing recall votes. The CEC approved the recall petitions after they successfully gathered signatures from at least 10% of the lawmakers' district. The votes will be held on July 26th. To find out more about how the mass recall movement will unfold from here, I spoke with Courtney Donovan-Smith, a political analyst based in Taichung in central Taiwan. Can you just give us an idea of the scale of this recall movement?
I believe worldwide this is the largest such recall movement at the national level that has ever existed anywhere in any democracy in the world. It's also unprecedented in Taiwan. In the last few years since the DPP removed the birdcage referendum laws that made it so difficult and made it a lot easier to conduct recalls, there's been an average of maybe 2 or 3 a year. So this is genuinely quite unprecedented.
Are there any takeaways from past recall movements in Taiwan that we can apply here to gain more insight into what might happen?
A definite pattern emerges in the successful recalls in Taiwan up to this point in the modern era. And that is that the ones that have been successful have all involved people, and this is on both sides of the political spectrum, who have in some way or another offended a lot of people. And that mobilizes their opponents to come together. So, for example, if we contrast Chen Bo-wei here in the Taichung 2, he's also known as Sang-Q, from the Taiwan State Building Party. When he was recalled, a lot of people pointed out that he took a more radical stances, such as legalizing marijuana and these kinds of things. He's deep green in a blue-leaning district. But he also had a very pugnacious personality, bragging about his prowess in fighting on the floor of the legislature and things like that, that made him a provocative figure. Now, a somewhat similar figure would be Freddie Lim, who's also deep green, very, very much to the left, and in a pan-blue leaning district as well. The recall against him failed, and I think the primary reason for that is that he was not so pugnacious, so combative. He wasn't so offensive, and he spent a lot of time doing things like visiting markets, being concerned about his constituents during the pandemic. And so he did not inspire much dislike or hatred, even though a majority of that district probably disagreed with him politically.
What kind of potential shakeup to the political landscape in Taiwan might these recalls bring?
A lot will depend on how many recalls are successful in stage 3. And there is something of a bar here. It's worth keeping in mind that a lot of people came out and voted for these people in the first place. But of those that actually are recalled, then they will go on to stage 4. And this is the final bar. Now, a very important part of this strategically for both sides is that the recalled lawmaker cannot run for re-election in the by-election that would be held, which would be stage 4. So if the by-elections are held and, we don't know yet who the candidates will be on either side. And so things at this point are still very much up in the air, and we also don't know the dates. So that will be something that we really need to watch very carefully going forward. But in the meantime, we have to see how many of the recalls in stage 3 are successful.
That was political analyst Courtney Donovan Smith. A British Navy patrol vessel has transited the Taiwan Strait, an action that the UK says was in compliance with international law. It comes as Taiwan reported 50 Chinese military aircraft operating in the area, with 46 entering the country's ADIZ. This is not Taiwan's airspace, but a buffer area used for defensive purposes. China's military said it had tracked the British boat's movement and that its presence was an intentional provocation that undermined regional peace and stability. Meanwhile, Taiwan's foreign ministry thanked the UK for taking, quote, concrete actions to defend freedom of navigation in the Taiwan Strait. U.S. President Donald Trump has set a 2-week timeline to decide whether to launch an attack on Iran.
I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks. That's a quote directly from the president for all of you today.
The White House said that a 2-week window was chosen to allow time for negotiations with Iran's government. Meanwhile, at least 71 people were injured Thursday in an Iranian strike on an Israeli hospital. After the attack, Israel's defense minister said that Iran's supreme leader can no longer be allowed to exist. Taiwan is joining other countries in evacuating its citizens as the conflict between Israel and Iran escalates. As of Thursday, the foreign ministry says 36 Taiwanese have been evacuated from Israel, while 3 have left Iran. One Taiwanese traveler fled Iran by crossing into Turkey after witnessing the dangers of the conflict up close. The foreign ministry is urging Taiwanese citizens to avoid travel to Israel and Iran. On World Refugee Day, NGOs and some officials are calling out Taiwan's treatment of asylum seekers. They say the lack of a refugee law, despite years of calls for one, puts refugees in desperate positions and fails to live up to Taiwan's promise as a beacon for human rights. John Van Triest has more.
Though Taiwan may not make headlines when it comes to refugee issues, there are a few dozen people who fled here for safety. But activists say what they often find is a far cry from the land of human rights and dignity they were expecting. On World Refugee Day, they've gathered with officials, like this member of the government ethics watchdog, who say this can't go on.
一个难民在边没身份、没居留证，他能不能工作？不行，所以他真的是非常惨。最后呢，都是这个 AI 还有立新基金会在帮忙。那帮忙的结果呢，因为他比如说他生病，也没有健保卡。
Despite years of debate, Taiwan doesn't have a law on refugees to say who counts as one and what their rights are. In 2023, the government announced special year-long residence permits allowing work, study, and access to health care. It says no one applied. But those gathered here say at least 20 did. People from places like Myanmar in Southeast Asia, torn by years of civil war.
我认识的很多申请人，距离提出申请已经等待超过2年多，还没有收到任何答复。
And they say some have endured harsh treatment for trying to make ends meet while waiting in limbo. One refugee from Myanmar among them.
他仅仅是因为在台湾为了生存然后工作，然后就被科处上万元的罚款，然后被处以强制驱逐。其实当事人在被查处的当下，他就已经提出了证明，说我已经有申请庇护了，但仍然被移民署上铐带到勤务的处所，而且被拘禁了数小时。那期间他是不能喝水、不能吃东西。
Amnesty International says polls on attitudes towards refugees show widespread support for legal status and protections.
在2022年的这个民调里面，就有过半数的台湾人其实支持的，甚至即使是中国人、是香港人，他们也都觉得应该要，如果他真的符合难民的定义，他就应该要获得保护。那去年其实国际特赦组织台湾分会，我们也有再做了一次2年后的民调，有60%以上的台湾人民也是支持。
In all, 15 NGOs are pushing to get the government to pass a law on the rights of refugees. In the interim, they also want a review of the temporary residency program and existing laws, and assurances that anti-discrimination laws and protections for children also apply to refugees. They have moral support from refugee hotspots who believe Taiwan can do better.
We urgently need the Taiwanese government to pass a comprehensive refugee act, one that guarantees the right to seek asylum, provides a fair and transparent process, and to protect the basic right of those who come here seeking refuge. I speak today not only as a Palestinian, but as a friend who wants to see Taiwan grow up as a place of compassion, justice, and leadership in human rights.
These NGOs hope their pressure will help make a difference and carve out a space in the political discourse for an issue they say can't wait any longer. Ryan Wu and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Stay tuned to TaiwanPlus because after the break, we see how divers are taking the plunge to deal with some thorny invaders.
At Connected, we believe in the power of dialogue. It's not just about the headlines, it's about finding common ground. Join the conversation.
Connected with Divya Gopalan on TaiwanPlus.
I'm Ed Moon in Taiwan's Jinmen Islands, and you're watching TaiwanPlus News, the voice of freedom in Asia.
我自己少遇见一朵花，我可能就不是这个样子。
开始思考什么叫做一个本土性，
大声的唱出来说我是台湾人。
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. A leaked phone call between the Thai Prime Minister and a former Cambodian leader is causing uproar in Bangkok, with a major partner of the ruling coalition leaving the government. Gino Lopez has this report.
Protesters take to the streets of Bangkok, demanding that Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra step down. They're outraged over what she said in a leaked phone call between her and former Cambodian leader Hun Sen.
I came here to oust the Prime Minister because she's a traitor, and everything under her is not improving. We're on the verge of losing our territory if we don't come out.
In the call, the Prime Minister is heard disassociating herself from the remarks of a Thai military commander about an incident that occurred on the Thai-Cambodian border. She's heard referring to Hun Sen as uncle and telling him to not listen to the other side, meaning the Thai military, who she accused of playing up tensions.
บอกว่าไม่อยากให้อังโคไปฟังคนที่เป็นฝั่งตรงข้ามกับเราเพราะว่าพอไปฟังฝั่งตรงข้ามอย่างพวกแม่ทัพภาค2เนี่ยค่ะเป็นคนของฝั่งตรงข้ามหมดเลยซึ่งพอไปฟังนั้นเสร็จอ่ะก็ไม่อยากให้ท่านรู้สึกไม่ชอบใจหรือโกรธเพราะจริงๆแล้วไม่ใช่ความตั้งใจของเราเลยค่ะ
Back in May, tensions flared along a portion of the border when a Cambodian soldier was killed. The area had been hotly contested for years. The incident sparked protests in Cambodia. In an attempt to ease tensions, Prime Minister Shinawatra called the former Cambodian leader Hun Sen. But the contents of the call were leaked online, made only worse when Hun Sen decided to release the rest of the call on Facebook, which he said was done to provide context. In response, nationalist protests sprung up in Bangkok demanding her resignation. Since then, Shinawatra has apologized for the phone call, expressed dismay at Hun Sen for releasing the call's recording, and reaffirmed support for the military.
รัฐบาลไทยนะคะก็กับกองทัพนะคะก็ขอแสดงความรับผิดชอบในเรื่องของการปกป้องอธิปไตยนะคะที่เรากำลังดูแลร่วมกันนะคะแล้วก็ขอยืนยันอีกครั้งว่าทางรัฐบาลกับกองทัพเองเป็นหนึ่งเดียวกันก็อยากให้พี่น้องประชาชนเป็นหนึ่งเดียวกับเราด้วยนะคะ
The incident has caused fallout for Shinawatra's government, with the country's biggest conservative party, Phum Jai Thai, leaving the ruling coalition. An awkward partnership formed just last year that united the rival Love Thai party and pro-military forces. Shinawatra's government is now left with a razor-thin majority. It also comes at a time when the country is facing slowed economic growth and high tariffs from the US. For now, the future of Shinawatra's government hangs in the balance and could collapse if more parties withdraw from the ruling coalition. Chris Ma and Gino Lopez for TaiwanPlus.
In Indonesia, the Honggana Manyawa indigenous people live according to their ancestral customs, largely independent from contemporary development. But their way of life is being increasingly threatened by the encroachment of the world's largest nickel mine. Miriam Brunner tells us more.
Deep in the rainforests of northern Indonesia, the last of the country's nomadic hunter-gatherers are fighting for survival. Uncontacted for centuries, the Honggana Manyawa have had to fend off trespassers and face forced relocation, as the world's largest nickel mine encroaches on their land.
After the companies entered this area, my relatives had to move. A lot of my relatives in this forest are now very far to reach, thanks to the mining companies. They keep clearing the forests, while this is our land, our birthplace.
Over 500,000 tons of nickel come from here, nearly 20% of global supply. It's used for wind and solar power and in electric vehicles and stainless steel. But as demand for green energy rises, so does the cost for the Honggana Manyawa people. There are only 3,500 of them left, and their daily lives are heavily dependent on the dwindling forest.
Turning the area into a concession zone or using it for mining to boost the economy hasn't really solved any problems so far. Instead, it's created new problems. Now, what will happen to the Honggana Manyawa people? If the government keeps using their economic arguments to justify their marginalization, then it amounts to a human rights violation.
Ancestral land is protected under the Indonesian constitution, but critics say the law is not always enforced. And with the Honggana Manyawa unseen for so long, they have no defined legal status, leaving them vulnerable to mining concessions like this one, jointly managed by French and Chinese companies who say their operations here are not breaking any laws. The destruction of the land is not the only challenge facing the Honggana Manyawa.
This river, as you see, was in the past a source of life for the Honggana Manyawa people, but now it's dirty. Honggana Manyawa people are in misery.
Despite the misery, they say that they have no plans to give up their land and traditions, that see them born in the river and buried within the sacred trees of the forest.
Let me reiterate, this is our land, our home. We will not consent to its destruction. So I'm telling them this is our home and we will not give it to you.
For now, the Honggana Manyawa do what they can, with or without the country's legal protections. In the face of big business and capitalist interest, they're determined to uphold their traditional role as the land's protectors, honoring the sanctity of the place they call home. Devin Tai and Miriam Brunner for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan passport holders can soon visit the Philippines for 14 days visa-free starting in July. That's after Taiwan extended its own visa waiver program for Filipinos by a year. Taiwan's foreign ministry has welcomed Manila's decision to reciprocate. The Philippines is one of Taiwan's primary targets under its new southbound policy meant to build up ties with nearby countries. To find out more about the significance of the Philippines easing travel restrictions for Taiwanese nationals, reporter Irene Lin spoke with Yang Hao, Executive Director of Taiwan Asia Exchange Foundation in Taipei.
What are some of the driving forces behind Taiwan and the Philippines' mutual decision to allow for visa-free travel for their nationals?
It's not only the tourism sector, but Taiwan, through the new southbound policy and the existing new southbound policy plus, we already developed a multifaceted partnership with Philippines. Especially, Philippines is one of the 8 priority countries of our new southbound policy, and it extends to the field of cooperation, including medical, public health.
The Philippines also announced this April that they now allow some of its government officials to come to Taiwan for unofficial visits. What do you think is the bigger picture here?
I think that shows their support to Taiwan's new southbound policy and our goodwill during the past 8 years. And we all know that almost all the ASEAN countries, they have been forced to practice the so-called One China policy. And the Philippines, I think, took the lead in this April to announce that their high-level official and decision maker can visit Taiwan. They don't think Taiwan become a political taboo.
That was Yang Hao from Taiwan Asia Exchange Foundation. Taiwan's latest export data shows a total of nearly $58 billion in orders in May, up 18.5% from last year. The growth was led by strong demand for AI, high-end computing, and cloud services. Outside of the tech sector, demand was weaker, with products like chemicals facing stiff competition from overseas rivals. The U.S. remained the country's top export destination. Fears of possible upcoming tariffs boosted exports to an all-time high of $21.1 billion in May, a 40% increase from a year ago. In the waters off Penghu, Taiwan's facing a silent invader, starfish, which are threatening the local coral. The government is responding quickly to this spiky situation. Chelsea Wu has the story.
With its vibrant coral reefs, the outlying islands of Penghu are a favorite destination for divers from around the world. But these divers aren't sightseeing. They're on a mission, searching for a spiky predator that's invading Penghu's waters. The poisonous crown of thorns starfish, also known as the coral killer, preys on hard, stony coral, like the ones in Penghu's waters. Taiwan reported its first large-scale outbreak of the starfish in 2010 and has been closely monitoring them ever since. Marine protection volunteers noticed a resurgence this month in the Chimay area. In response, the government organized a volunteer dive team to carry out a spiky operation, manually removing the invasive species.
只要有人有通报这个籍贯海星的问题，基本上我们就是启动开始做调查。所以七美的这个当时我们收到通报之后，其实在调查的时候知道它已经的密度有到一个接近警戒值，所以我们就启动一个专案开始做籍贯海星的清除。
The government aims to develop long-term prevention strategies and a regional response system to protect Taiwan's marine ecosystems. With continued monitoring and swift responses, Taiwan hopes to stay one step ahead of the spiky invader and preserve the vibrant reefs that make Penghu a marine treasure. Liang Lian and Chelsea Wu for TaiwanPlus.
Renowned Taiwanese dance company Cloudgate Dance Theater is collaborating with choreographers from Taiwan, Japan, and Europe for a set of performances this weekend in New Taipei City. AC Wells has more.
This is Cloudgate Theatre in northern Taiwan. It's home to one of the country's leading dance companies, and this weekend it's set to host 5 unique performances by choreographers from Taiwan, Japan, and Europe, with 20 of Cloudgate's dancers. The works are a part of the dance troupe's Spring Riot program, originally launched in 2001 to showcase young talent. It's been a key platform for Taiwanese artists to debut new works, and this year all focuses on movement with minimal theatrical design, as performances are stripped down to their purest essence in what the artistic director has coined a bare Spring Riot.
我想时代进步得很快，然后科技前进得很快。那我在想，我们在这个时候应该再回来面对很赤裸的身体，人的呼吸、人的心跳、人的血液的脉动，人为什么开始跳舞？我希望大家可以在舞蹈里面感受到这么纯粹的东西。
While Cloudgate's training methods draw on Tai Chi and martial arts, giving the group their own distinct movements, featured choreographers like Baru Madaling, whose dance company focuses on the movements of Taiwan's indigenous Paiwan people, and Hiroaki Umeda from Japan have brought in their own distinct techniques, leaving much in anticipation on how these styles will blend together for the Spring Riot works.
So I have been developed my own dance method, movement method. Already before coming here, I had known that Cloudgate dancers are very trained and disciplined, and dancers are very good. So then I decided I shared my movement method to the dancers, and they developed their own movement from the method.
For the choreographers set to present their works here, it's a chance to join forces with the first contemporary dance company in the Chinese-speaking world. And for Cloudgate dancers, it's their moment to step into a new groove, drawing on the roots and rhythms of dance communities in Taiwan and worldwide. Alex Chen and Izzy Wells for TaiwanPlus.
And thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Finally, today we give you a glimpse of Olafur Eliasson's latest exhibition at the Taipei Fine Arts Museum, which uses materials such as light, water, and air temperature to reflect on the issue of climate change. I'm Liao. Take care and see you next time.